Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast. We have John Moran with us. John is co-founder at Solutions 8, occupied a bunch of cool roles as well, not his first business. He's been owner of a couple of agencies and co-founder of 3X Shopify Challenge, which is quite interesting in itself. We're going to talk about ads, Google ads, YouTube ads, which I am very fond of, remarketing as well, if possible. And this podcast is brought to you by podpire.com, which is my podcasting agency. If you want to start, scale, be invited to a podcast, or even find sponsors for your pod and monetize the crap out of it, because a bunch of people start podcasts and they give up after 5 episodes when they realize that they're not getting the bang out of their buck. So podpire.com if you need help monetizing your pod. John, welcome to the pod. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself and tell us about Solutions 8?
Sure. Yeah. The company Solutions 8, we actually were just acquired last year. It was a good acquisition, but we've had it for 16 years. We built it up to about 110 employees across 220 different Google Ads accounts under active management. We spend about $90 million a year in just Google Ads, so we don't do anything else besides, just SEMs. 10% of that's on Bing, but we won't talk about that. It's mostly just Google Ads. But yeah, it's been a wild ride. I think the way that we've been actually measuring performance of accounts is much different than to your typical ads manager, which is what we've been able to kind of attribute to our success, which is less in-app metrics, more top line, what they call like CAC, MER, LTV, and media efficiency ratio, also known as MER. But that's the way that we've been actually able to grow that business is look less inside of Google Ads as an attribution reporting tool and more like the top line actual measurement of the business.
The exit, how did it happen? How did it feel? And how did it change your reality?
It was good. It was an 8-figure acquisition. So it was a large amount of sum of money. It was essentially, it was very, very quickly. We were solicited by a large AI group that is developing artificial intelligence to replace Google Ads agencies. And they're onto it. They're going to be a little bit, kind of down the road, maybe 1 or 2 a year from being successful with it. But they basically said we need some smart folks that understand attribution to help us build out the rules in the engine in order to make data-driven decisions based on what a Google Ads manager would do. And they also need a bunch of clients to test it on. So 3-month close, we did due diligence in 10 hours. And it was about half cash up front. And so, yeah, it was, we met them in July of last year. We closed in October of last year, and just kind of finishing out my earnout with them, which is really cool.
So some kind of acqui-hire, and the team was 50 big back then. How much employees did you have again?
No, we had 107 last year. We haven't grown. So it was, but with the acquisition, it was more focused on developing the AI. So the scale of the company kind of was put on hold because they did what they call an asset purchase agreement. So they purchased our employees and our clients. Yeah. And then they essentially hired my business partner and myself as employees of the company to help transition and also help them develop their AI.
Was it your first exit?
Third exit. Yep.
Third exit. Cool.
Yeah.
So you're used to that. And are you building from the get-go with an exit in mind? Or because me, it's more like building slowly but surely an empire, have massive cash flow, and do some acquisition on my end. So what's your business philosophy when it comes to this?
It was such a good offer because it was a 6x EBITDA. And we were scaling every year. And what's nice is that 6x EBITDA was built off of the next year's metrics. So that's why it was a very, very large acquisition. The looming recession that we're all facing means that with the, over 100 employees, that if things start to have an economical downturn, we didn't want to have to lay people off. So being attached to a much larger fish that is extremely well funded into the hundreds of millions of dollars in investments that they have taken meant that we can have a 2-year contract with all of our employees to make sure that no one is let go. So rather than having to kind of, reduce down and then have to build back up again, my business partner and I have 3 other businesses together already. So this was a good thing to kind of, it was 70-hour work weeks. So it's like, we got paid very handsomely for that. Now we have more time to do everything else that we're trying to grow and become more of a cash cow lifestyle brand rather than, the 13 calls per day in Solutions 8.
So let's say that you invested 8 hours per day in Salt 8 and the rest of your time you worked on these other businesses of yours.
Yeah, it was about 10 to 11 hours per day, and then another 2 hours with the other businesses. So yeah, it's I live off of basically one meal a day and 4 hours of sleep.
I'm somewhat that way too nowadays. Okay, and yeah, you built some books in the meanwhile. You had some trainings. So how did you juggle with these, and did you accomplish the goals that you set yourself up to with these courses, these groups of yours, and these books?
Sort of. So the books were basically just able to get us into podcasts and also into public speaking events. For whatever reason, we got invited to go to, I spoke at Barcelona in July at Affiliate World. And one of the things is like, oh, if you wrote a book, we'll treat you like an adult now. So it's kind of funny how that one is basically just to be able to essentially be recognized. The book was amazing. It's 550 pages of everything that we've ever known ever about Google Ads. So it was definitely a really, really, good, solid book. But the bigger benefit of that is to become kind of gain that notoriety, to allow us to kind of share with the world with what we have. We spend about 200 grand a month on our YouTube ads for Solutions 8, just teaching people how to do all this stuff anyway. And so it's nice is us teaching people how to do this has allowed us to become kind of the people that know what to do. And then when people don't want to do it themselves, they hire us. So it's been the best lead acquisition for us too.
And what about the ROI on that 200K a month? Is it fully scalable? So if you invest 200K, do you get $1 million back?
It's about a 2.26 return. So our average cost per acquisition is about $2,700 of a new client, and our average monthly retainer is $2,500 per month, and our average lifespan of that client's 14.4 months. So it's not everyone will close, but when they do close, it is very lucrative, and we're looking for that kind of lifetime value of those clients. So we'll pay very handsomely for a client that will stay with us, because when it works well, no one leaves. Our average retention rate is 92% after 3 months.
And that's with the AdWords agency.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Do you well, YouTube ads to me is way harder than AdWords. I might be mistaken there, but how do you focus your efforts in between platforms and all the services you offer as an agency?
Yeah, sure. Actually, is this something that people can see, or is it just here, like for the podcast? If I share screen, would anybody able to see this?
You can share screen.
Okay. So I'll just share with you kind of, here's a good one. I'll pull up our Google Ads account. Here's what's interesting is we spent a lot of money in one campaign. This is just one of the campaigns here. So this is like one of our YouTube campaigns. I'll say like all time. In this one, YouTube So Late, we spent 1.43 million since third quarter of 2022. And the ads in here are just basically us teaching everybody how to do all this stuff. So this is July 2022. The conversions are here good. We redid how we restructured what we count as a conversion, but it is everything you ever could imagine for like us teaching the world, that we're paying out of our pocket to do so, because that's been our best lead generation service. So prerequisites for successful lead generation: bidding strategies for broad match keywords. Part 1, like, are you hurting your YouTube ads? CAC versus LTV and how to measurement, demand gen campaign first results. And there's like, 91 other videos here. And I'll spend, 30 or 40 grand on each one of these videos. Sometimes more, sometimes less, depending upon how long we want to run it. I spent 142K on like the offline importation of conversion actions. And what's funny is this is 16-minute video, 56-minute video, 10-minute video. The reason why this works though is that I will actually have my call to action not go to my website. I will have my call to action be watch now, and the URL is that YouTube video to continue watching. So what happens is I'm not asking for marriage. I'm not asking for a lead magnet. I'm not asking for anything. I am simply proving to everyone through data-driven examples over this 58-minute video what we're doing, how we're structuring it, bidding strategies, daily budgets, ad spends, audiences, everything, how we track conversions. It's Google Tag Manager, not GA4. It's, using data-driven, but using a third-party attribution, blah, 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 blah. So I will prove to you through data and examples, and I will pay that I know what I'm doing. And if you want to find my website and go contact us, great. But you're not going to find any sort of like lead magnet or hidden secret that I'll tell you after you sign up. Everything is there for clear taking. And I think that's what companies fail to do, is you have to pay them to find out that they're bull crap. And that's 99 out of 100 agencies. And I have the data to prove it because I have a lot of those agencies clients now. But that's the bad part. That's what I think is what people are missing is value first. People don't take that approach anymore. They don't take pride in their work, in my opinion. I think that's what's been the difference in us scaling this big and becoming acquired very quickly.
I love that. Do you have data proving that people, after watching your video and you not pursuing them other than remarketing, do come back to your website and eventually buy?
Yeah, we actually have a post-purchased Slack. So I'll share screen here, for example. This one came in today. This one, we'll probably have to hide this later on, but everything, how to hear about us, YouTube. Everybody will come to our website, tell us what they're spending a month, if they have access to the Google Ads account, if they're running it right now, what are your goals? What is the product? Where do you want to start? Who are your competitors? How did you hear about us? YouTube. And it's always that when they say, how did you hear about us? Most of the time it's YouTube. When they, this one was other, but they came in through the spotlight looking at me. Let's just see. How'd you hear about us? YouTube. Then this, how'd you hear about us? Google. They did a Google ad search. To see whenever it's a lead form where they say, how did you hear about us? It's always either like Google or YouTube. Once in a while we get a referral, but a lot of time it's how did you hear about us? YouTube. Like the ROAS and MER. Like that's something that I'm discussing now on each one of my podcasts and how we are trying to figure out. So this person spends $5 a month. How did you hear about us? YouTube. They will come to us. I will not send them to the site, but when they're ready, it is the easiest sales process in the world because they said, I've been watching you for 2 and 3 months. I agree with everything that you're doing. I'm actually starting to implement some of your strategies. This is working great. Could you take over? Beautiful. I'm cultivating the perfect client for myself.
And at what point do they know where to find you? Do they just Google you, or do they click on your YouTube channel, which has a website link? Or
yeah, sometimes they'll either like usually the page that they're just Googling my brand name and clicking on. I spend very little in my branded search. It's like only $100 a day. But what's great is I don't have to have any sort of brand protection right now. People get bid on my brand name. I don't care. I've been warming up this audience with high level strategies for 2 months. Your landing page is not going to beat me. So they usually just find us either by like a link in the YouTube or an organic click on our website address on the Google SERP. It's very, very, very simple.
So you remarket them with all of your best content, basically. Let's say that you have 100 videos out there. They always see something different. Once they click on the call to action, they're redirected towards a full video, and they love it so much that at one point they just outreach. Another important thing is that the Google AdWords dashboard is just, the UX is total dog crap. You get lost.
Yeah.
And people, they don't want to do it themselves. That's why they hire an agency. Am I right in saying that?
It's that, but also because Google has lies about all their metrics. Performance Max fluffs too much conversion action. They take an engage view conversion, combined with a click conversion, combined with efforts from other channels that have a data-driven attribution split, and then say that they did everything. And all of that is wrong. So when they say, hey, Google saying I have a 4, 5, and 6x ROAS, but my company's dying. Why? And so that's where they need to have a top line goal to achieve, but every agency focuses on ROAS. Look at the ROAS of that campaign. That campaign ROAS looks good. It's not business health. There's no contribution margin there. There's no profit margin. There is no inventory management. There's no scalability. It's just the warmer the traffic, the better the ROAS. And so people just end up buying their own traffic more and more and more until their company's dying, and then they got to look for someone else. And so that's where I think that I've been teaching everyone. If you look at your Google Ads report to measure business health, it's a slow death. Because you shouldn't be looking at your own measurement instead of Google Ads. You should be looking at your own measurement of your back end metrics. The company that I just got an equity ownership is this company called Traveloo. Here's a good example. They were running Performance Max before. They're running a whole bunch of other different campaign types. And you can see here, the week of January, all of this here, this is, you'll see all of the conversions and cost. In the actual back end of itself, why would the actual Traveloo store here go from up to 15,000 people and then shoot down to 5,000? Well, that's when I paused Performance Max. This is a whole bunch of junk traffic taking brand and reorders and their own existing audiences and just regurgitating it to themselves. The problem is, though, when you run like a standard shopping campaign with a good strategy, as an example, this last month over the previous month, we've grown the business over 118% with 92% more orders and increased the conversion rate simply by scaling up a bunch of direct response standard shopping campaigns and having Performance Max being dead and gone back in July when everything tanked off. So what's interesting about this whole thing is that if I look though here, for example, this month to date, Google Ads will say that I've made, and it's only Google Ads. We're not running Facebook. There is no email. There's barely any existing customers. I know I made $60,000. Google is going to track 46. Well, what's the ROAS? I don't care what the ROAS is. The ROAS is supposed to look bad. I'm getting first clicks, and if they come back directly organically through email, I might lose attribution, but that's okay. I'm measuring off of I spent 20, made 60 at scale. Beautiful. So that's where people don't look at necessarily the actual media efficiency ratio. Everyone is Google. People are looking at Google. Facebook's looking at Facebook. You're looking at your bank account declining. They're infighting, and everyone can't talk the same language. So no one's measuring the same metrics. So that's where you need to shut off the campaigns that over attribute and then actually move the needle and can scale. And that is not measured by ROAS, which is the fail point of most agencies today.
Love that. And these ads, what do they look like? They're selling products directly, so they're just demonstrating the benefit of the product.
Yep. So you'll see here, I have a lot of campaigns. The first one I'm starting with is what they call Bricks. Bricks is a brand that is a luggage brand. Okay. Now, Traveloo is my company here, and if you go to Google though and you type in Bricks luggage, you will not get away from me. It's Traveloo, 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 Traveloo. I will own Google, because if you're looking at where can I find Bricks luggage, whether you're typing it in, with an exclamation point or with an apostrophe or not, if the ads here is who has the most amount of kind of brand awareness with the best deal, and I'm gonna kind of own the Google Ads landscape. If you want to buy a Bricks product today, you're most likely buying it from me. I can scale that up easily because I know that our click share on these campaigns this last week, for example, is very high. So my click share, I'm only 10% and 15% penetration. I can scale this up without hitting a point of diminishing returns, because I could take this thing from 125 up to 380 and get a cheaper cost per acquisition. Scalable. What's a ROAS? I don't care. Doesn't matter. CPC doesn't matter. Is it high position? Am I making sales? Good conversion rate? Is my profitability there? And am I only advertising the products that have a 45% contribution margin or higher? Now I can scale that, but that's the area that people need to dive into. And I think that's been the biggest issue I see, is agencies are more theoretical, and as long as ROAS is high, it's good. But that's also the people that have purchased the 16 times this year from them. It doesn't mean that Google Ads is doing anything.
20K ad spend, 60K returned. How much did they pay your agency?
Oh, this is a company that they came to me and said, hey, we'll give you 10% of the business. Just run the ads.
Okay, 10%. Oh, they gave you shares. Literally.
They gave me equity. Right.
Whoa. Is that unique, or do you often do that?
I have about 5 businesses that have done that so far.
Wow, that's pretty cool right there. And the cost of the product, let's assume 50% margins.
It's a little bit better than that. We need essentially a 1.85% to be profitable. 1.85 ROAS, or 185%. So if I can keep it scaling at 300%, we're in a good profit margin there.
So you're making a tad of profit on these ads, sort of.
Yeah, if we hit about 80K this month, which we're by 75, 80K, we should have a net profit before we take our owner's draws of 26,000.
Why did you accept equity in that one? Did you like the product? Did you do market research on if luxury travel handbags would go up?
No, I did essentially was taking a look at Google Trends, take a look at what is the exclusivity of these products that we can actually get, how many more retailers are going to be able to also start to produce these products in the future. Briggs and Riley, Tubi, and Samsonite are all no longer accepting third-party retailers. We're the ones that last ones get accepted, which means my future competition is going to be low. The people that we're going up against are like Bloomingdale's, JCPenney's, Macy's, all the people that aren't focused or care about these little products that I can own that space and they won't even worry about it. So competition is low, can't be any more. CPC is low, and I'm going up against people that don't know what they're doing in Google Ads. So it's going to be a cakewalk for us.
So is Google and YouTube still an attractive platform when you compare it with Insta ads, TikTok ads, and all these new platforms out there?
It depends. My suggestion would be to people is, what platform would you look at it is start with the most direct response bottom of the funnel first, if there is existing traffic for it. Everyone right now, there's not most people, but there's a large percentage of people that are going to buy luggage today. Now, there is not a whole lot of people that are going to buy the WYSIWYG that you just thought of yesterday. So One is creating demand, one is capturing demand. If there's demand to be captured, Google, absolutely. Pay $3 to be put in front of a person looking for a product like yours. Makes the most amount of sense in the world. If there is no available search volume, that's when you have to do the meta ads. You have to do YouTube, and you have to be more proactive. You have to generate your own traffic. That is much more expensive. I will not gain equity in a company where I have to establish an industry. I don't have enough money for that. So you're talking tens of millions over the course of a couple of years. So that's not something that is lucrative. But if there's people that are wanting to buy the product that I can sell on the website, and I can outrank everybody and out-strategize everybody, oh yeah, then the sky's the limit of just, how much money can we spend?
When's AI gonna kick in, and I'm just gonna tell my bot to go in my bank account and maximize my 50K into 50 million?
Yeah, I think we're not yet actually in AI, in my opinion. I think we have really amazing decision trees that are built in the back end, but AI is still very far away. There's too much that you could actually have to put into an AI for it to actually be very good. In my opinion, market demand for a product that looks nice, that also has a good contribution margin of what you're able to negotiate from a profitability from the manufacturer, according to what the next year seasonality plans of your most amount of competitors and what they're going to be building. In my opinion, it could do 1/4 of that. If you build it for a marketing channel, it's a decision tree. If ROAS is low, reduce budget. If ROAS is high, increase budget. They're scripts. So I think that we're still far away from true AI. I think we're going to be making much bigger strides in what they call niche AI. Like, can you make really good ad copy? Absolutely. Now, on what product do you apply that for? On what channel with what audience? No, not yet. So that's where I think is we have a bunch of niches. So I leverage AI a lot for myself, but it's to solve a very specific one-time process, not to take the reins, in my opinion.
Because in your case, you spent 16 years of your life getting like really, really good, probably one of the top 5 or 10 in the world in Google AdWords. So would you recommend folks to really narrow down in their tokens and in their bets as entrepreneur? Because nowadays it seems that you're starting to invest in other spots to kind of put your eggs in different baskets. What's your strategy next year in terms of where you'll be investing your time and energy, and what would you recommend folks do in that case?
My opinion is niche down to if you're an entrepreneur that owns an agency, and I'm so sorry, I only had the 30 minutes scheduled for this, so I do have to jump, but I apologize for having a hard stop. My apologies for that. My thing that I would leave everybody with would be, don't niche down to an industry, niche down to a service. Whether that service is your industry, though, like you provide, luggage, like I am in one of my businesses here. Like I'm not providing luggage, I'm providing easier travel, and I'm going to be an expert in how to provide easier travel to people. My products can change, and so can my marketing strategies. But I would say niche down to a service to a large industry. So we have another company called Nido Marketing, NIDO. It's a niche service that allows us to develop everything for a Montessori school: your website, your CRM tool, your email marketing, your social content, your content posts, your Google ads, and your meta ads. All that is done because I can only work with one school in a 20-mile radius. Well, there's thousands of schools. Great. That's repetitive. So I niche down to a service to an audience, and I niche down to an industry. That industry died during COVID. If that was my only business, I'd be eating a lot of ramen. So that's where I don't recommend niching down to an industry, but we can niche down to a service that we can provide. So think about owning a large piece of a small service and be very, very good at it. That would be my opinion. I did it with Google Ads, but I can apply to 99% of the businesses in the world. So that was my strategy.
Love it. Where can people find out more about you, John?
My LinkedIn is actually really good. And I think we could probably put that in the podcast, but I think my LinkedIn profile would probably be the best. And I'll just drop that here in the chat in case you want to put it when this goes live. We can put a link for it for everyone. But yeah, my LinkedIn's the best way for. And I always post a bunch of stuff on LinkedIn too. So every single time I have a breakthrough strategy, I post it right into a 30-minute video on exactly how you could do it as well.
I was John Moran and your host, Charles Cormier, for another CEO Wisdom podcast.com.